Hey everyone, welcome back to another incredible courtroom story. Today, I'm going to tell you about a case that shows just how dangerous food allergies can be and what happens when a restaurant doesn't take those warnings seriously enough. This is a story about a simple dinner that turned into a near-death experience. A story about a customer who did everything right and a restaurant that learned a very expensive lesson. By the end of this, you'll understand why food allergies are absolutely no joke. Let's dive right in. Picture this, you're going out for a nice dinner, you've got severe food allergies so you're extra careful, you tell everyone, the hostess, the waitress, even the manager. You make it crystal clear, I'm allergic to nuts, I cannot have any nuts in my food. They assure you everything will be fine, you order your meal, you trust that they've listened to you, you trust that they've taken your allergy seriously. And then you take a bite. Within seconds, your throat starts closing up, you can't breathe, your face starts swelling. You're literally dying right there at the restaurant table. This isn't a hypothetical scenario, folks. This actually happened to a man who went to a gentleman's restaurant for what should have been a simple pasta dinner. Let me tell you exactly what he said in court. I went over to this gentleman's restaurant, I told them repeatedly that I was allergic to nuts. I told the hostess when I got there, I told the waitress. She brought the manager over, I told him I was allergic to nuts. 3 times, he told 3 different people about his life-threatening allergy. You can't be more clear than that. So he orders the pasta, pumpkin Alfredo, sounds safe enough, right? No nuts listed in the ingredients. He takes a bite and then another, and suddenly everything goes wrong. All of a sudden I can barely breathe, he testified. I was dying, my throat starts swelling up. This is anaphylactic shock, folks. This is what happens when someone with a severe allergy is exposed to their allergen. Their immune system goes into overdrive, their airways close up. Without immediate treatment, they can die within minutes. Fortunately, this man was prepared. He had an EpiPen on him, that's an emergency injection of epinephrine that can temporarily reverse the symptoms of anaphylactic shock. He jabbed himself with the EpiPen right there in the restaurant and rushed to the hospital. Now imagine you're that person, you did everything you were supposed to do, you warned them multiple times, you trusted them with your life and they nearly killed you. So this case ends up in court. The customer is suing the restaurant for damages. And this is where things get really interesting because the restaurant owner's response is, well, let's just say it's not what you'd expect. The plaintiff, that's the customer, starts explaining his case to the judge. He talks about how he went into anaphylactic shock, and then he says something that makes everyone in the courtroom look up. Look at my face. He's showing the judge the physical evidence of what happened to him. The swelling, the reaction, the visible proof that he suffered a severe allergic reaction. But the restaurant owner, he's having none of it. He stands up and says confidently, "Gentlemen, there are no nuts in his dish." Just like that, no apology, no concern, just a flat denial. The judge points out the obvious, you can't say that because he suffered a reaction. I mean, think about it, the guy clearly had an allergic reaction, he had to use an EpiPen, he went to the hospital. His face is swollen, but the owner is sitting there saying, nope, no nuts in the dish. The owner doubles down, he says, we looked at everything, we made sure that we didn't cause any issues. Then he does something interesting, he asks the judge, may I show you the menu? The judge says yes, so the owner shows him the menu and asks, what do you see under pumpkin Alfredo? You see any nuts in pumpkin Alfredo? And you know what, he's technically right. The menu doesn't list nuts as an ingredient in that dish. But here's where the plaintiff's lawyer makes a brilliant point, one word that changes everything. That is called cross-contamination. Let me explain what cross-contamination means in a restaurant setting. Even if a dish doesn't contain nuts as an ingredient, if it's prepared in the same kitchen where nuts are used, with the same utensils, on the same cutting boards, or even in the same pots and pans, traces of nuts can get into the food. For someone with a severe nut allergy, even a microscopic amount, we're talking particles you can't even see, can trigger a life-threatening reaction. So the pumpkin Alfredo might not have nuts in the recipe, but if it was prepared in a kitchen that also prepares dishes with nuts, cross-contamination is absolutely possible. But here's where the restaurant owner thinks he's got a trump card. He points to something at the bottom of the menu and says, "Do you see what it says at the bottom of the menu? We do our best to respect dietary restrictions and allergies, but our kitchen is small and we cannot guarantee no cross-contamination." Ah, the disclaimer, every restaurant owner's favorite defense. It's that little line of fine print that's supposed to protect them from liability. And legally, it does provide some protection. The owner is basically saying, "Look, we warned you, we told you we couldn't guarantee anything, you took the risk by eating here." Now here's where the judge steps in with some wisdom, because yes, the disclaimer exists. Yes, the customer was technically warned, but the judge points out something crucial. If he's telling you, "I'm allergic to nuts," you can always say, "We can't guarantee no cross-contamination. You're going to have to take your business elsewhere." This is such an important point, let me break it down. The restaurant owner had options when this customer came in and told him about his severe allergy. He could have said, "Sir, I appreciate you telling us about your allergy. However, we have a small kitchen and we work with nuts in many of our dishes. Even though the pumpkin Alfredo doesn't contain nuts, we cannot guarantee there won't be any cross-contamination. For your safety, I would recommend dining elsewhere." Would the customer have been disappointed? Sure. Would he have been upset about not being able to eat there? Probably. But would he have nearly died? No. That's the key difference. The restaurant owner had a choice. He could have turned away the business to protect the customer's life. Instead, he took the risk, served the food, and the customer ended up in the hospital. But then the restaurant owner says something that absolutely shocks the courtroom. And I mean, this is one of those statements that makes you question someone's basic human decency. He says, if he's got to walk around with an EpiPen everywhere he goes, go eat in the hospital. Let that sink in for a moment. This restaurant owner just told a man with a life-threatening food allergy, a medical condition he was born with, something he has no control over, that he should go eat in a hospital instead of a restaurant. It's dismissive, it's cruel. And honestly, it shows a complete lack of understanding about what it's like to live with severe allergies. Millions of people have food allergies. They carry EpiPens because they have to, not because they want to. Should all of them be banned from restaurants? Should they all have to eat in the hospital? The judge is not having it. The judge points out the obvious: he could have died. 3 words that sum up the entire case. This wasn't about a little stomachache or some mild discomfort. This man almost died eating pasta at a restaurant. And now we get to the moment everyone's been waiting for, the verdict. The judge looks at both parties. He's heard the plaintiff explain how he warned everyone about his allergy. He's heard the restaurant owner defend his disclaimer and even mock the customer for carrying an EpiPen. And then the judge says something that makes the restaurant owner's face drop. "I am going to give you $100,000 for your pain and suffering." $100,000. Let that number sink in. The restaurant owner, who thought his little disclaimer would protect him, who mocked the customer for having allergies, who told him to go eat in a hospital, just got hit with a 6-figure judgment. Now, some people might think that's too much money for a pasta dinner gone wrong. But let's break down what that $100,000 is really for. First, there's the physical pain and suffering. Anaphylactic shock is absolutely terrifying. Your throat closes up. You can't breathe. You genuinely think you're going to die right there. It's one of the most frightening experiences a human being can go through. Second, there's the medical costs. The EpiPen itself costs hundreds of dollars. The emergency room visit, that could be thousands of dollars depending on the treatment and how long he had to stay. Third, there's the emotional trauma. This man will probably be terrified to eat at restaurants now. Every time he goes out, he'll remember what happened. He'll wonder if he can really trust the staff when they say they've accommodated his allergy. Fourth, and maybe most importantly, there's the principle of the matter. This judgment sends a message to every restaurant owner out there. You cannot take food allergies lightly. You cannot just slap a disclaimer on your menu and think that absolves you of all responsibility. If someone tells you they have a severe, life-threatening allergy, you have 2 choices. Refuse to serve them and explain that you cannot guarantee their safety. Take extraordinary precautions to ensure their food is completely free of allergens. What you cannot do is serve them anyway, hope for the best, and then act surprised when they have a reaction. This case is about more than just one restaurant and one customer. It's about a bigger issue in the food service industry. Food allergies are incredibly common. According to research, about 32 million Americans have food allergies. That's roughly 1 in 10 people. Among children, it's even higher, about 1 in 13 kids has a food allergy. And these aren't just minor inconveniences. An estimated 200,000 people require emergency medical care for allergic reactions to food every year in the United States. The most common severe food allergens are peanuts, tree nuts like almonds, cashews, walnuts, milk, eggs, wheat, soy, fish, shellfish. For people with severe allergies to these foods, exposure can be deadly. And here's the scary part: reactions are getting more severe. The rate of anaphylaxis from food allergies has been increasing over the past couple of decades. So when someone comes into your restaurant and tells you they have a severe allergy, they're not being difficult. They're not trying to get special treatment. They're literally trying to stay alive. And as a restaurant owner or manager, you have a responsibility, not just a legal responsibility, but a moral one. Cross-contamination is a real issue in restaurants. It happens in several ways. Shared equipment. If you use the same knife to chop nuts and then use it to prepare someone's salad, you've just contaminated that salad. Shared cooking surfaces. If you sauté something with peanut oil and then use the same pan for someone else's dish without thoroughly washing it, that's cross-contamination. Airborne particles. In some cases, allergens can even become airborne. Flour dust, for example, can travel through the air and settle on other foods. Ingredient mistakes. Sometimes staff accidentally use the wrong ingredient. Maybe they grab almond milk instead of regular milk, or they use a sauce that contains nuts without realizing it. Any of these scenarios can send someone with severe allergies to the hospital, or worse. Lessons learned 1800-2100. So what are the lessons from this case? There are several, and they apply to both restaurant owners and customers with allergies. For restaurant owners, take allergies seriously. When someone tells you they have a food allergy, believe them. Don't downplay it. Don't dismiss it. Treat it as the serious medical condition it is. Train your staff. Everyone who works in your restaurant, from the hostess to the chef, needs to understand food allergies and cross-contamination. They need to know how to handle these situations. Be honest about your limitations. If you cannot guarantee that a dish will be free from allergens, say so upfront. It's better to turn away one customer than to send them to the hospital. Don't rely solely on disclaimers. Yes, it's good to have a disclaimer on your menu, but that doesn't mean you can ignore someone's allergy warning and hope the disclaimer protects you. As this case shows, it doesn't. Have protocols in place. When someone orders with an allergy restriction, you should have specific protocols. Maybe you use separate cutting boards and utensils. Maybe you have the chef prepare that dish first before anything else. Whatever your system is, make sure everyone follows it. For customers with allergies, always carry your EpiPen. This man survived because he had his EpiPen with him. If you have severe allergies, never leave home without it. Speak up multiple times, as this customer did. Tell everyone, the hostess, the server, the manager. Don't assume one person will pass the message along correctly. Ask questions. Don't just assume a dish is safe because it doesn't list your allergen as an ingredient. Ask about cross-contamination. Ask how the food is prepared. Trust your instincts. If a restaurant seems dismissive of your allergy or doesn't seem to take it seriously, leave. It's not worth the risk. Know your rights. As this case shows, if a restaurant is negligent and you have a reaction, you have legal recourse. Document everything, keep your medical records, take photos if you have visible reactions, and consult with a lawyer. You know what really gets me about this case? It's the restaurant owner's attitude. I understand that running a restaurant is hard. I understand that dealing with special requests and dietary restrictions can be challenging, especially in a small kitchen with limited staff. But this owner's response, telling someone to go eat in the hospital if they have allergies, shows a fundamental lack of empathy. Think about what life is like for people with severe food allergies. Every meal out is a calculated risk. Every birthday party, every wedding, every work lunch, they have to worry. They have to ask questions. They have to be that person who makes everything complicated. They're not doing it to be difficult, they're doing it to survive. And yes, some people abuse the allergy label. Some people say they're allergic when they just don't like something. That's frustrating for restaurant staff, I get it. But you know what? It's better to take every allergy claim seriously than to risk someone's life because you assumed they were exaggerating. The owner in this case was so focused on defending his restaurant, so focused on his disclaimer, that he lost sight of the basic human element. A person almost died after eating his food. Instead of showing concern, instead of apologizing, instead of trying to understand what went wrong, he got defensive and dismissive. And that attitude cost him $100,000. This case isn't unique, unfortunately. There have been numerous incidents of people having severe allergic reactions or even dying after restaurants failed to properly accommodate their allergies. I'm not going to go into graphic detail about specific tragedies, but a quick search will show you multiple cases of people, often young people, college students, who died after eating food at restaurants that contained their allergens even after they'd warned the staff. These aren't just statistics. These are real people with families, friends, dreams, and futures that were cut short because someone in a kitchen didn't take their allergies seriously enough. And here's the thing, in most of these cases it was preventable. It wasn't that the allergy was so rare or unusual that nobody could have anticipated it. It was usually one of the common allergens: peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish. The tragedy happened because of negligence, carelessness, or in some cases, willful ignorance. That's why cases like this one matter. That $100,000 judgment isn't just about compensating one customer for one bad meal. It's about sending a message to the entire industry: this matters. People's lives matter. Take allergies seriously. From a legal standpoint, this case is actually pretty straightforward, even though the restaurant owner probably thought he had a solid defense. The restaurant owner's main argument was, "We have a disclaimer." The customer was warned, he took the risk. But here's the thing about disclaimers: they don't give you unlimited protection. They don't mean you can be negligent and then hide behind fine print. The legal principle at play here is called duty of care. When you operate a restaurant and someone comes to eat, you have a duty to provide food that's reasonably safe. If someone explicitly tells you they have a life-threatening allergy and you choose to serve them anyway, your duty of care is even higher. The plaintiff could argue, and apparently successfully did, that the restaurant breached its duty of care. He warned them multiple times, they chose to serve him, and he had a severe reaction. The disclaimer might have protected the restaurant if the reaction had been mild or if the customer hadn't explicitly warned them. But when you have multiple warnings and someone ends up in anaphylactic shock, that disclaimer isn't going to save you. There's also an argument about assumption of risk. The restaurant could claim that by eating there despite the disclaimer, the customer assumed the risk. But again, courts generally don't look favorably on that argument when the risk is life-threatening and the customer did everything right to warn the establishment. The $100,000 judgment reflects not just compensatory damages, actual costs and pain and suffering, but possibly punitive elements as well, meaning the judge wanted to punish the restaurant's behavior and deter similar conduct in the future. So where do we go from here? What can be done to prevent situations like this? Some people advocate for stricter regulations on restaurants when it comes to allergen disclosure and handling. Some states have passed laws requiring restaurants to have specific protocols for dealing with food allergies. There's also been a push for better training in culinary schools and restaurant management programs. Future chefs and restaurant owners need to understand not just how to cook, but how to cook safely for people with various dietary restrictions. Technology is starting to help too. Some restaurants now use apps or digital systems where customers can input their allergies and the kitchen receives clear alerts. Some places use separate prep areas or even separate kitchens for allergen-free meals. But ultimately, it comes down to people. It comes down to restaurant owners and staff who care enough to take these warnings seriously. It comes down to a culture where protecting customers' health is seen as just as important as serving delicious food. Because here's the truth, you can have the best food in the world, but if you send someone to the hospital, none of that matters. So let's wrap this up. A man went to a restaurant. He did everything right. He warned multiple people about his severe nut allergy. He trusted that they would take care of him. Instead, he nearly died and ended up in the hospital. The restaurant owner tried to hide behind a disclaimer and even mocked the customer for having allergies. The judge saw through that, recognized the severity of what happened, and awarded $100,000 in damages. This case is a reminder that food allergies are serious, potentially deadly medical conditions. They're not preferences, they're not people being picky, they're life-threatening situations that require respect and careful handling. For those of you with food allergies, this case shows that you do have rights. If a restaurant is negligent and you're harmed, you can seek justice. For restaurant owners and staff, this case should be a wake-up call. Take allergies seriously. Train your staff, be honest about your limitations, and if you can't guarantee someone's safety, have the courage to tell them that up front. At the end of the day, we're talking about human lives, and no meal, no matter how good, is worth risking someone's life. Thanks for listening to this story. It's an important one, and I hope it makes everyone think a little more carefully about food allergies and the responsibilities we all share in keeping each other safe. Stay safe out there, folks, and if you have allergies, never be afraid to speak up. Your life is worth more than any worry about being difficult. Until next time,